What's up, everybody? You're tuned in to the Cris
Ammo.
podcast, episode 192. Hope everybody's having a good day. Big Energy Monday. Whatever you're doing, you're at work, you're at home. Hope you're having a great day. We got a lot of things to get into: NFL stuff, some WNBA stuff, some Major League Baseball stuff, boxing stuff, and a few other things too. Before we get into that, Maul, how are you doing, sir?
Man, I'm feeling good, man. Obviously, everybody can see my setup is a little bit different today. I'm out of town. Gonna be heading back to Vegas pretty soon. So, apologies for the different views, but man, I'm feeling good, man. Can't complain, brother. How you doing?
I'm pretty good myself, man. Like I said, I always enjoy my off days. So,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Trust that.
all right, man. Let's talk a little NFL news. We got the big news that Terry McLaurin he signed a 3-year extension for I think it's $96 million.
Mm-hmm.
So he will be ending his hold in. He was with the team, he just wasn't practicing. But he ends his hold in, and they said he will be ready for Week 1 against the Giants. We both said that they needed to get this deal done if they wanted to be considered Super Bowl contenders, or build off of what they did last year going to the NFC Championship game. Uh, I don't think nobody really picked Washington Commanders to go that far, but to see the emergence of Jaden Daniels, the sky's the limit with this team, and Terry McLaurin is very much a part of that. He's been the constant professional, and he's always been the image of consistency when it comes to the wide receiver position because he's had 1,000 yards every year that he's been there. With whatever quarterback plays there, now that he has a perennial All-Star, All-Pro quarterback in Jaden Daniels, that should just keep going and probably even more further, up in his yards and his legacy as a Washington Commander. What's your thoughts on the signing and the extension and everything?
Long overdue. You know what I mean? I feel like this process was taking longer than it should have. You know what I mean? Like I thought the deal was pretty easy. It seems like it's about to be 32 million a year. I'm assuming there will probably be some incentives involved within that deal, depending on what year it is. Maybe that last year. Maybe it could be majority of that may be incentive. I wouldn't be surprised if the guarantees is around like 60, 65, maybe closer to 70 million. I wouldn't be surprised about that. But at the end of the day, I think Commanders fans should be excited that this deal finally got done, that they can get ready for the regular season heading into the Giants Week 1. And, I'm sure Jaden Daniels is happy to finally get his star receiver back to pair up with Debo. Now this team is filled. You know what I mean? So now this team should have that expectation of they should be able to compete for a Super Bowl contention team. You know what I mean? They should be up there with competing for that division with the Philadelphia Eagles. Jaden Daniels, from the little parts that we've seen of him, being part of the team, as far as like this preseason, I feel like this team should be really good. You know what I mean? So I feel like everybody, with the Commanders franchise and that fan base, man, I think they should be really excited.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. They should definitely be excited, especially for the season. And adding Debo Samuels to kind of be the number 2 wide receiver on this team is, definitely raised the floor and the ceiling of that wide receiver room. Yeah, man, I think that they should be real encouraged that they should be able to be contenders this year and be contenders in that division to win that division too. I know the Eagles have retooled and they look like they're primed for trying to repeat, but they definitely could battle it out with the Eagles this season, and wouldn't be surprised if the Washington Commanders end up winning that division. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
um, Jerry Jones is back in the news, y'all. He did a sit down interview with Stephen A. Smith, talking about the state of the Dallas Cowboys. But the main thing that he was talking about was his contract negotiations with Michael Parsons. Michael Parsons was at the preseason game. He even showed him on the TV, putting the phone to my ear, call me, for the negotiations. But the big part where Jerry told Stephen A. Smith, the main people who need, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said the main people who needs to be happy is who, and this is him asking Stephen A. Smith this, And Stephen A said Michael Parsons. He said, who's the other person who needs to be happy is me. So there's no room for a third person, pretty much trying to alienate the agent out of the equation, trying to say that we don't need no agent. Negotiation just should be between me and Michael Parsons. But we all know that business, especially in sports, do not work like that. Unless you are your own agent, it don't work like that. It's even in the CBA that it has to be negotiated through an agent so they can, they know all the numbers, they know how to talk the lingo and all that stuff. They know what to look for when somebody's trying to get over on them or whatever. So for him to try to exclude the agent was just, real nasty work from Jerry Jones. So how do you feel about those statements?
Uh, Look, man, we know Jerry, bro. Jerry is he's a special human being, bro. He's always gonna put himself as being the superstar over his franchise, and some of the comments that he's made with this whole Michael Parsons situation just kind of highlights who he is as an owner of this organization. Um, the stuff that he said was kind of a joke. I don't get the whole mama daddy thing. You know what I mean? That was just like weird lingo and a weird comparison to what this negotiation is going on. He's kind of admitted stuff that is kind of illegal with what the NFLPA has asked for this league to do as far as like with negotiating contracts with players. Like he has the right to have that representation with his agent. So um, it's just getting messier by the day. I think obviously there's been some conversations about how Micah was acting on the sidelines, even if it was for like a short period of time. People are kind of like hiding that situation of him laying on one of the medical beds, um, looking like he was asleep, even though there were reports that it was just for like a short period of time. And honestly, I don't even fault Micah. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like he's a superstar talent that should be paid. And if anybody's losing money on this, it's Jerry Jones because he keeps waiting and having this situation longer than what it needs to be. You know what I mean? He could have been had this signed, sealed, delivered before any of these contracts with Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, so on and so forth, that he could have got a better deal. You know what I mean? Like, there's been that statistic going around with the Dak Prescott contract where, you know what I mean? Like the stuff the Eagles did with their contracts is still, I think with 2 or 3 players, is still lower than what Dak Prescott is getting paid by himself. So I think at the end of the day, it's just this whole thing's a mess. I don't know if this thing is going to get resolved anytime soon. It's going to be very interesting to see what Micah does, though. Like with his next steps, is he really going to sit out this Eagles game next Thursday? It's less than we're looking at less than 13 days, 12 days. You know what I mean? Before this game gets kicked off, man, and it's going to be very interesting to see what the late days come leading up. You know what I mean? Who's going to fold and or are they going to stick to their guns and go into the season with all this animosity and frustration that isn't going to help the team? Like me and you have kind of stated that this defense is still not really that good. The only thing that benefits them is the pressure that Michael Parsons gives them. This offense can be explosive, but the running game is still so highly suspect, and we still expect George Pickens to blow a gasket by week 3 because he's not getting the ball what he assumes to get. You know what I mean? Because he wants that contract too. So what is going to be? You know what I mean? Like, is it going to be you wanting to win games, or is it you want to continue to make this organization into a laughing stock? Just because you got eyes on your team doesn't mean it's in the good manner of it. And at the end of the day, I think this fan base should be fed up with this circus that Jerry Jones does consistently. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. At the end of the day, I don't think the comments that Jerry Jones made helps this situation at all. I think it just makes it worse. And then, we got to see what Micah does and him and his representation does going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said. Like you said, Jerry Jones, he wants to be the face of the organization, and he does it year after year after year, uh, trying to be over his players, and trying to minimize his players and make them seem like they're just pawns on the chessboard, and he's the king. But at the end of the day, if you want to build championship level teams, you got to have championship level players. And Michael Parsons, say what you want about Michael Parsons. I know some people feel like Michael Parsons may have not lived up to everything that he's been billed as, but he's still a really good player. And any team that gets Michael Parsons is getting a Pro Bowl perennial possible all pro player if you can get the best out of him. He has all the tools and the traits to be an all pro, especially as a pass rusher. So um, he definitely needs to go ahead and sit down and negotiate and get this contract done, or trade him, send him somewhere else that going to appreciate Michael Parsons and give him the money that he deserves. So,
What's your gut? You think he plays next Thursday?
no, I think he sits out. I think he pulls a Chris Jones,
I
sits in the
agree.
crowd, sits in the crowd, got popcorn in his hand.
Nah, we know he loves the nachos. He did that already. You know what I mean? Pulling
uh,
up to the stadium with the nachos. So.
yeah, so yeah, I don't expect to see Michael Parsons next week. So,
Nah, yeah, neither do I.
um, in other news, there's a lot of discourse with the Sanders brothers. We'll start with Shiloh first. Shiloh, he I think they were playing the Colts. Were they playing the Colts?
I'm not really sure. I just
Whatever
saw
team they
the
was, whatever team they
notification.
was playing. Shiloh was guarding the tight end. Him and the tight end was engaged, and the tight end started it, slapped him beside his head, and was tussling with him. And of course, Shiloh retaliated at the end, and of course, the referee always catches the second person. They never catch the first person. That's why I always feel like if you're gonna eject people and feel, always go back to the tapes. I always say review it to see the full story. I don't think it's fair that, oh, I caught him doing it, he just did it for no reason. No, look at the tapes and both of them. If you're gonna eject both of
Yeah.
them. I think that should have been fair. But he gets ejected from the game, and of course, or yesterday morning he got waived from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's a lot of discourse about that. I haven't really paid attention to Shiloh and how he was playing in preseason, but some people are saying he wasn't playing that good anyway. But do you feel like this was a reasoning to cut him?
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't really smart. I get it. You know what I mean? Kind of like just you know, the manhood in you, you know what I mean? You're gonna try to defend yourself in a situation like that. But, he was an undrafted free agent going into it. So we already know, kind of like behind the eight ball, you already are in that kind of position and making the team is already gonna be hard enough, once you get past like the fifth round pick, you know what I mean? Like and a non drafted free agent. So that situation didn't help at all. You know what I mean? I think it probably just made the decision probably a little bit easier because he got kicked out and you expect better from Shiloh, man. You know what I mean? Like, especially just the limelight that last name has, man. I don't think it was a smart move. So, am I surprised that he got cut? No. Again, I wasn't really paying attention, just like you, as far as like how he's been playing. Um,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, I'm sure this made the decision a whole lot easier to cut bait with him, and hopefully, he gets another opportunity. But we already know how much this league is trying to make it tough for his sons to make any kind of progression in this league. I don't care what anybody says, but Shiloh didn't help at all.
Yeah, for sure. And then we go to Shador Shador Sanders. Shador
Bro, thinking about
Sanders.
boxing already, huh?
Yeah, I know, right? Shador Sanders. So he played in the preseason game, and they had Dylan Gabriel play, and he got to play with more of the starters. And then Shador got to come in. He had to play with guys that probably won't even be on the team anymore. And there's a lot of discourse on saying that it wasn't an even playing field when they claimed they was trying to see have a fair battle between the two quarterbacks. But it's like Shannon Sharp said, how you gonna have a guy going there against a guy who got all the AKs and bombs, and he got a musket. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot. And look, there are some things that Shador could have did, like not hold on to the ball so much, trying to make a big play. And we saw some of those things in Colorado where his offensive line play was bad, and he would try to just hold the ball, wait for somebody to get open, and sometimes he would take some unnecessary sacks and hits. And I think a couple of times on I think it was Saturday, he did the same thing. But I just feel like it was a setup for failure to me. You know what I'm saying? You can't say, like, first off, why is Joe Flacco playing? We don't need to see Joe Flacco. We know what Joe Flacco is. He's a veteran in his game. Okay, you want to get him a couple series, fine. But if you're gonna really have a who's gonna be the backup to Joe Flacco battle, they all should be on the same level, even level field. And Dylan Gabriel should get some series with the one, a quarter with the ones and twos or whatever, and then Shador should get that same, you know, same love. You know what I'm saying? That both of them playing with the same players, and then you measure their play by that. You can't have one guy playing with better players, and then the other one you tell the other guy here, play with this and try to match it, and then you know the 2 minute drill comes and they pull him and let Tyler Huntley play, Snoop Huntley play, and he gets cut. We already know he was going to get cut. And why are you
Yeah,
having him do the 2 minute drill for what?
yeah.
When you could have just let Shador finish. Maybe in the 2 minute drill, he shows you something. He takes the team down the field and converts in the 2 minute drill. But instead, you pull him, you humiliate him even more by putting another quarterback in who's not even going to be on the team. So I didn't care for it. I don't know what they're doing over there with the Browns. Uh, you got four quarterbacks over there. I don't know what y'all about to do with Kenny Pickett. Um, you got Deshaun Watson out here showing workout videos. Like, it's a mess over there. So, what's your thoughts on the whole situation?
I don't know how you can get anything of this being just a total embarrassment on how they handle this whole situation. I don't care what anybody says. It all started from the draft. It's not even just this singular moment, and this singular moment has some eyebrow raising moments. But it starts off with the draft, and you can't sit here and tell me that the majority of the people who had Shador Sanders rated either a first round or second round pick drop all the way down to fifth. That makes no sense. I've never seen that before. I don't think anybody has ever seen that before. So that's an eyebrow raising moment. That's not including what Eric Dickerson said over the weekend. We ain't even talking about that whole situation. Then you go into how you have you have a slew of quarterbacks. You still got you have Joe Flacco, who had is probably going into your being your regular season starting quarterback, who's a veteran. Then you drafted Dylan Gabriel. Then you go ahead and you draft Shador Sanders. Then you go ahead and you still got Kenny Pickett on the roster before all that. Then you sign Tyler Huntley. And it's like how are any of these guys getting reps? Then the whole time during the preseason, all I've heard was Shador Sanders was the best quarterback out of all of them as they were performing. But he could never get play with the ones. He could never play with the twos. You had the stories of him throwing to training staff and medical staff and all that dumb shit. And then you go into the whole situation where he goes and plays for the Carolina Panthers, looks amazing. You know what I mean? Gets to start. I don't know if he was playing with the starters that game. I can't remember, but he looked really good playing against the starters against the Carolina Panthers. I do remember that defense was the starters, and he played really good. He showed he can make NFL level throwing balls, throwing into double and triple teams with precision. You saw the movement of him being able to move out of the pocket because he was always talked about being non-athletic, but you can see he's athletic enough to be able to be a starting NFL quarterback. Then you had the whole situation of then he gets hurt, then Dylan Gabriel plays, and Dylan Gabriel didn't play bad, but I don't think he played great. Like what I mean, we both kind of said the last week that how Dan Orlovsky said that he had the better tape, and I don't agree with that. How can you say he had the better tape when Shador Sanders nearly played a perfect game, but Dylan Gabriel had a fumble and a pick six? I don't care
Mhm.
what your perception is. Like the same situation I've been hearing all day is, oh, Shador Sanders could have threw the ball away. He could have did it. So could have Dylan Gabriel in that moment. But y'all didn't crucify him. You just said you said his tape looked better. So even the conversation with Shador Sanders has been kind of skewed in a point. And then we go over this weekend. Like Dylan Gabriel playing with ones, playing with twos. And did he look good? Yeah, he looked good. But he had some overthrows. He had some balls that didn't look good. You saw some moments where that height and him seeing over the offensive line and defensive line, he had his struggles, but he played decent. And then you throw Shador Sanders in the third quarter with a whole bunch of guys that we knew weren't making the team. And then lo and behold, what happened? What happened on Sunday? I think that whole offensive line that Shador Sanders played in front of got cut. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So, and then people want to say he wanted to throw the ball. He ain't have time to throw the ball. He hiked the ball, and then next thing you know, he has 2, 3 defenders in his face swarming him. He can't go left. He can't go right. He can't go straight. So how is he going to throw the ball? Because then if you throw the ball away, you know what's going to happen? Lost it down. You know what I mean? We all know what it is. So Um, I don't know. It's frustrating with the comments. I was pretty disappointed even in Ryan Clark and Dan Orlovsky's takes on First Take. I was pretty disappointed in that. But at the end of the day, Shador Sanders knows what he has to do. And then I still don't know how this QB room. I don't know how you justify this QB room. I really don't. I don't know what direction you're going to go. So, we'll see. Time will tell with everything. But I believe they set up Shador Sanders for failure. I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care. And I didn't even talk about the 2-minute drill. Like that really don't make no sense at all. Like I don't get that. So you have all these glaring. I said it's not just one moment. It's several moments that makes it look like you were trying to make it harder for Shador Sanders than any other quarterback. We didn't even talk about the play calling in certain aspects. You know what I mean? Shador Sanders has a bad O line in front of him, but you trying to make him do 5 step dropbacks and throw the ball. Like, come on, what are we doing? So, it's embarrassing, but these NFL analysts are going to try to cover up, some of their friends' decision making because I'm sure they're friends with some of these guys. And Kevin Stefanski, I don't care if he's a 2-time coach of the year. This is idiotic behavior, and he's not helping this team being successful. This front office has not helped this team be successful because, as they said, you got 2 quarterbacks, you ain't got no quarterbacks. So what are we doing with this situation? So, and I've even stated before, no matter how I feel about the whole Dylan Gabriel situation, you're not even being fair to him. You know what I mean? Because you're putting him in a situation that's tough. And do I think Dylan Gabriel has handled the situation correctly? No, I think he's made his mistakes as well. But then again, as I said, they're not punishing Dylan Gabriel for some of the stupidity remarks that he's made and some of the leadership droughts that he's shown in his remarks and some of his play. Like, but we see the play, we see the motive, and I don't care what anybody else says. That's what I believe, and I'm gonna stick to that. I have 2 eyes.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a big old mess over there. Um, and Cleveland, man. I don't know. I don't understand what they're doing over there, man. I really don't. I don't understand it. It's weird. It's
And it looks clickish too. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like you see the videos of Deshaun, like we saw the videos of when Shador Sanders was playing well and how miserable Deshaun Watson and Dylan Gabriel looked on that sideline. And in the moment that Shador Sanders shows any kind of vulnerability as far as like within his play, all I've seen is nothing but smiles from Deshaun Watson and Dylan Gabriel. Make that make sense. You know what I mean? Make it make sense. You know what I mean? I saw the little locker room when Shador Sanders was making comments. You know what I mean? Very cliquish behavior, but it is what it is. That whole organization is a laughing stock and a joke. And you almost lost one of your star players because you couldn't even pay him. You had to get him, overpay him. So this team isn't going to win anything. This team is going to be a joke. And I hope Shador Sanders finds his freedom and goes to a real team that's actually going to give him a real opportunity to succeed. Because this organization ain't going to do that for him.
No, they're not. No, they're not. Um, just real quick before, because we do have a special guest coming on, Michael Cooper of Scarlet Standard Media. He's going to talk some UNLV football and some other UNLV stuff with us. Um, but just real quick with some preseason stuff, I got to show love to Jackson Dart. My man been balling out in the preseason, man. And are
Yeah.
we sure he ain't the starter?
I give
are,
it by week 4. I
uh,
give it by
are
week
we
4.
sure he shouldn't be starting? I don't know. Now he need to learn how to get down because he almost got himself massacred on Saturday. Trying you got to slide, my boy. He ain't in college no more. These boys hit over here, so
Right.
he got to learn to get down. He almost put himself in concussion protocol, but he looks good. He looked good in preseason. Cam Ward had a really good game. He threw a couple deep balls in his game that he played. Um, who else? I can't really think of nobody else. I mean, your Raiders, Genty and all them, they look good. Thornton, I know he caught a touchdown, back shoulder fade from Gino.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I like some of the stuff I'm seeing from y'all on offense. Um, my Chiefs, the first team looked good against the Bears. I like what I saw from Patrick Mahomes and them, and getting Bashard Smith in on the first team plays. I see they're going to use him more as a receiver out the backfield. Um, the Bears first team didn't look too good.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like what I saw from them. Now I will throw them a little. They didn't have all their offensive line. Joe Tooney and them wasn't all out there, so that had a little bit to do with it too. But still, it didn't look like the week before when they was just going up and down the field. Um, and it got even people talking about, we sure Tyler Badger and Tyson Badger shouldn't be playing.
Give it time, man. He's going through a whole new offensive
uh,
playbook, new coordinator. We all know that Ben Johnson offense isn't really the easiest to kind of grasp. We know like the entrant, like it's going to be hard for him. Give him time. Give him time. You know what I mean? Like Caleb Williams is a talent. You see flashes of it. So
yeah,
that team is
yeah,
too talented to be bad. So we'll see what's up. We're going to get the Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy matchup right off the bat. So I'm sure that
yeah,
will spark a lot of conversation after that game.
yeah, for sure, for sure. But overall, today is cut down day. Everybody's got to have their rosters cut down to the 53 by tomorrow. I think 3 p.m. Eastern time. Eastern time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how are you feeling about cut down? How you feeling about the regular season? All that good stuff.
Look, man, it always sucks. You know what I mean? These guys, trying to make the team. We know this is going to happen. So, they're going to get some cuts, but hopefully, some of these guys get picked up on practice squads and have a
Mhm.
opportunity to, make the team, make another team, make another squad. But it comes with the territory. I think some of the key things that I think we should look out is, I'm very curious to see what they say about Joe Mixon and his injury. They got to make a decision on him, where they're going to put him on the pup list and all that. We still got decisions on the Rashee Rice suspension. I know that meeting is coming September 30th, so I know Chiefs fans are kind of eyeing out that kind of situation. We already talked about Michael Parsons and Trey Hendrickson. That its whole situation is still going on, but at the end of the day, man, it's football season. I'm excited for I'm excited for this week with college football. We got some big games that I'm sure we're going to talk about on Wednesday. But next week, man, we're going to get the ball rolling, man. And football's back, man. I'm truly excited, man, and I can't wait to get this whole thing rolling.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you, man. Yeah, like you said, it does suck. Some of these guys that put their hard work and determination to make it to the NFL, and some of these guys are gonna get that phone call to tell them that they got to turn their playbook in. But this doesn't mean it's the end of their
Nah,
career. It doesn't mean that this is over. Um, this just means that this is not the space that you're supposed to be in. So keep your head up, and I'm sure another team will pick you up, and you just keep going. You know what I'm saying? Just keep
or
going.
playing these other leagues, Canadian
Yeah,
Football League, the UFL. We see cats getting picked up from these leagues all the time. You know what I mean? So opportunity's still not dead, man. Just make the best of your opportunity, man. Get better, and try again.
for sure. All right, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and then we're gonna bring our special guest on.
Introduce yourself to Magnet, the ultimate sports drink. Are you ready to take your performance to the next level? Do you want a sports drink that eliminates the muscle cramps and fatigue when working out or training? Meet Magnet, the sports drink designed for athletes who refuse to settle for mediocrity. It's power-packed electrolytes and rehydrates and restores balance with their scientifically formulated blend with magnesium that fights fatigue and boosts endurance. It has natural ingredients made with real fruit extracts and no artificial colors or flavors because your body deserves the best. It has delicious flavors like mixed fruit and watermelon that keep you revitalized and ready for action. It will boost your performance with essential vitamins and minerals. Magnet fuels your workouts, helping you crush your goals. Join the Magnet movement whether you're training, competing, or simply staying active. Magnet is your go-to refreshment for peak performance. You can order it now on our direct link at drinkmagnet.com. Also, use promo code Cris and Mall to get $5 off your purchase. So don't wait. Again, that promo code is Cris and Mall to get $5 off your purchase. Get Magnet, push your limits, fuel your passion.
Okay, everybody, we have a special guest on today. We got Michael Cooper of the Scarlet Standard Media. This was, come on now.
What's up, guys? How are you guys doing?
Pretty good. And you,
What's
sir?
going on,
Thank
man?
Appreciate you coming on the show, man, and talk some UNLV football and some other things about UNLV. Before we get into all that, man, tell everybody how you got started doing your Scarlet Standard Media and how long you been doing it.
So I've been doing Scarlet Standard since April. I'm a UNLV alumni, and I've been around UNLV since basically I was a kid. Um, it was ironic. I used to have a pretty decent following. Well, maybe not follower wise, but like a pretty decent following of like people that read my stuff about UNLV that I used to post on Twitter. And ironically, former Rebel Mike Moser, who's now a coach for the Houston Rockets. He messaged me on Instagram and was like, he really likes my writing, and he's like, you should get it out there, and if this is something that you want to do. And I just took that and kind of ran with it. I It's been a whirlwind since April, if I'm being honest. It's I got my first media credential for football on Saturday, so it went from just being in a kind of an independent kind of platform that I have, that now I'm actually I write about UNLV and UNLV only. I have connections within the program. I talk to a lot of people, so I try to get as much information out as possible. You guys may know that Vegas media doesn't really cover UNLV that much. And so I'm trying to build a platform that is strictly about UNLV and UNLV only. If you guys have seen my page a little bit, it's Scarlet Standard Media on Instagram. I also have a Substack underneath the Scarlet Standard. All my writing goes on Substack. I post my player interviews and things like that there as well, and as well as on YouTube. But yeah, it's I've gotten to meet a lot of players so far in the off season. It's been very interesting to see. Saturday was a very interesting game that could have been a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
But, I think that it comes with the territory that this program, is under, unusual national media attention. And, they've wanted that attention for years. They're finally getting it.
Right.
And I think that, that comes with, other, social media was not very fun for UNLV fans. I was reading through it, and it, that's just something they're going to have to get used to. I think it's, it comes with the territory. You guys, a lot of UNLV fans wanted to be the big dog, the big man in the Mountain West. And now you got it. Now you're paying $3.5 million for a coach. And that comes with the consequences and criticism when you barely beat an FCS school in week 0. So
yeah. Well, staying right there, we're going from Coach Barry Odom, and he set a culture here, and it was the UNLV program, football program, was rising, and now we go to Dan Mullen, who's probably has a little bit higher prestige, being in the SEC, coaching at Florida, Mississippi State. What kind of culture do you see so far? I know it's early, but what kind of culture do you see so far that Dan Mullins is setting in UNLV football right now?
I think you're starting to. He's been very adamant that he's trying to push what Barry has built. Him and Barry were friends. Barry was one of the reasons why he got to see UNLV's facilities for the first time.
Okay.
So it is, I think, and you're not going to completely, in perspective, tear down a culture of a school that is coming off back-to-back bowl appearances. They're, which was the first time in program history. You're not going to, tear down the foundation that's already built. You're going to continue to thrive and grow on that. And like you mentioned, from the SEC pedigree, Barry had that SEC pedigree also coming from Missouri. So if you look at it from that perspective, you're just going to continue to grow and build bringing in those SEC level type of athletes. I mean, if you think about even just the quarterback room that he got, you had a transfer from Michigan who was a starter at one point for Michigan last season, and you have Calandria, who is he started 17 games of the 21 he played in at Virginia in the ACC. So you can start to see that it's, the investment wise that the athletic program is doing, the what do you call it? The the backing of what the AD and what they're trying to build. I mean, they have the facilities, they have the culture. Now it's just continuing to, the jump that they need to make is finally getting over that hurdle of winning the Mountain West Championship. And they have the talent to do so. I mean, if you look at their roster up and down, they had 33 transfers from Power 4 schools. So, then they had 17 of those, which were former 4 or 5-star recruits.
Mm-hmm.
So they're starting to flow the talent. He's using the relationships that he had, because some of these guys he recruited when he was at Florida. The last years he was at Florida, so he's using his connections. He's brought in a pretty good staff. I mean, the offense looked fine. Paul Gunther is Paul Gunther, so he has his NFL issues, and he has his college. He had his college issues, but it also could be, I don't think that they, a lot of these guys that came in they're just waiting for their chance.
Right.
And sometimes when you're on your second or third school and you still haven't, I'll use a lot of gripe came on Jake Pope, the safety transfer from Alabama and Georgia. Well, he didn't play much when he was at Alabama and Georgia. So, he played 70 snaps on Saturday. So it's kind of like, his first real game action. It's also, FCS, but I think culture-wise, it's going to continue to grow, continue to build, and they want to win. And I think, their goal is ultimately, it's every G5, G6's goal is it's to go to a Power 4. And, what Power 4 doesn't want a, Allegiant Stadium, the facilities that UNLV has, they just need to continue to win. Yeah. And winning solves a lot of those issues. Basketball needs, pass with, even just if you look at since Eric Harper has been there, he's hired 3 coaches. He hired Barry Odom. He's hired Josh Pastner, which is still a wait and see on the basketball side. Mm-hmm. And he got Dan Mullen. So you can see that there's, it's coming. It's just a matter of when. And, I think if you see if you see them regress again on Friday night when they play San Houston State, you'll see what the true buy-in of these players are. Because Sam Houston State's a game they should win. Right. And everybody's looking forward to 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, UCLA game, right?
So it's just going to be a matter of, we'll see the true culture and what he's trying to build. It's going to take time. Some of these guys came in, late in spring ball. Some of these guys came in. I think you could see that, the foundation's starting to be set. It's a matter of getting these guys to buy in. I know Mullen's teams he loves the celebration. He loves the hype on the sideline, but they had some very, very unnecessary penalties that kept drives going. Mm-hmm. And you may be able to get away with that against Idaho State, but you can't get away with that against, D1 schools, let alone schools like UCLA.
Right. You got anything more?
Yeah, man. First of all, hey, Mike, hey, appreciate you coming on, bro. Congrats on that credential too, my brother. Hey, congrats on that for sure. Man, let's break the ice, man. Let's get into this game that we saw on Saturday, man. That first quarter looked horrendous. I'm not gonna cap. You know what I mean? The QB play looked kind of inconsistent. I think our running game looked pretty fantastic. But our defense, I think that's been one of the keys, especially like with last year. We couldn't stop nobody. And I know it's still early in the season. I know everybody's still kind of, getting their gearings together and trying to find that cohesiveness on that defensive side. As you stated, a lot of these guys just came late in spring. What's kind of like the overall feel with this defense, man? We kind of saw a lot of plays where the communication was kind of off. Play action looked like they played horrible against the play action in certain aspects of the game.
Well, I think one thing that killed them is watching that game. I've watched it back as well. It's how many times did the running back Dacian Brooks for Idaho State just get pop off 10, 12 yards on a delayed handoff or delayed draw? It seemed like, the pass rush was the major problem. Mm-hmm. Looking back, breaking down the box score and looking back, they didn't get very much. They only had 1 sack against an FCS school. They only had 4 quarterback hurries all night. So if you're not getting that type of pressure, no matter how good your corners are, if you're going to sit back, because they looked like they just sat back in soft zone coverage most of the night. Mm-hmm. And, on those 3rd and 5s, 3rd and 4s, they were, 10 yards off the line. So, you can't play that. And if the way that I think, you're going to, it could be, they played a very vanilla game plan, which they easily could have, and they could have very underestimated their opponent. Or, they also had 2 starting defensive players out. So you may have thrown somebody in who, Mumu Binwad, he was expected to be a very big contributor in the secondary, and he wasn't dressed. So you may have been throwing a guy who maybe not have been ready to go, or maybe been a last minute scratch. So communication could be off. You could tell that communication was off all night in the secondary. I mean, just take that, like you said, that first quarter, take that trick play. I mean, that was just a blown coverage. You had in the third quarter, you had a third and long. It was like 3rd and 16, 3rd and 17, and the guy scrambles out, gets hit, and it's a blown coverage across the middle of the field that leads to a over 40-yard touchdown. So I think I also don't know if our Paul Gunther is the interim DC. He took over late in spring as well when they were in the middle of install when Zach Arnett resigned and ended up at Florida State. So I don't know if that could be an issue as well. You're still going to a culture change. Arnett was installing it one way. Gunther may be installing it another way. It's football. You're gonna have to adjust on the fly no matter what. But at the end of the day, I think you can't give up 380 yards passing and 550 yards of offense to any school and expect to win games and expect to, especially for the height that they were getting, expect to be a CFP contender. It's not going to happen. So I think, I wrote a little bit about what they needed to clean up, and it's very interesting of what they do need to clean up. It's, offensive line play was terrible. I mean, Calandra looked like he was running for his life all night long, and I was looking back at like some PFF grades and things like that, and they only had, they had 3 of the 6 linemen that rotated in and played. They had 3 rank in the bottom 5 in the nation of how they performed. So obviously that needs to be cleaned up, and I think the Calandra had a bunch of deke and dunks and swing passes and short routes. They didn't really open up the offense. I mean, Jaden Bradley played great. He had 6 catches for 143 yards, but everybody else was, where was JoJo Earl? Where was Troy Amorie? Where was even the tight ends and Elkins and Varkey's Gums? Like, maybe they didn't want to show much, but they really didn't. I mean, Calandra had he dropped back 24 times and he was pressured 8 of them and was sacked 3. That doesn't count how many times he ran the ball. So it's, and I think the other thing they need to clean up on the offensive side is they need to get Jet. They need to figure out who's going to play and what they're going to do with Jet. Jet played 32 snaps, Glover played 20, and Kayvon Lee played 17. I mean, granted, giving Jet only 10 carries on 32 snaps is is crazy to me, especially with how well he was playing. But the 2 other running backs in Lee and Glover combined for 12 carries for 33 yards. You can't have that. Jet's going to need a blow at some point,
right?
And you're going to need a change of pace. And if you're not able to open up the game and through the air, it just can't be Calandra running for his life or them trying to use Orgy and special packages, the way that they did. Granted, I will say on the quarterbacks, if Orgy doesn't fumble on the goal line to open the game, we may see a more even distribution of what that rotation was.
Right.
Okay.
Because I thought Orgy looked great on that first drive. I thought, other than the fumble, but Calandra played well. He had over 100 yards rushing, or he had 93 yards rushing and 195 yards passing, and I think it's going to be very interesting. But the defense is my worry. It was my worry all offseason. When you have guys that are coming in, either on their, they were very, a lot of the interviews I did with players, they talked about how tight-knit the group was, how close, how bonded they were. But, that may be great for off the field. And it's nothing against them. That may be great for off the field, getting to know each other chemistry, but it really didn't show on the field. Yeah. So it's gonna be very interesting. Like, what does he do snap wise? Is he gonna continue to rotate guys in, or is he gonna ride his better players really and see what happens, see where it goes? Because they opened as a 13.5 point favorite against Sam Houston. That line was, after the Idaho State game, that line was dropped to 10, which I still think is a pretty bettable line. But you're getting respect. You're a 10-point favorite on the road. That's impressive no matter what school you are. So absolutely. you got to live up to the hype and expectation that everybody's giving you.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. Question: do you think the program is doing enough to build a stronger connection with the Las Vegas community?
I think they are correcting that. I think that you had coaches. Barry was a very good coach. He was not a personable, personality per
Right.
se. Kevin Kruger struggled to get fans in the stands because he didn't win games, and he was not a very personable personality. When
Right.
you're a head coach at any athletic program at UNLV, you have to be a showman. That's part of your job. You're in Vegas, and I think you see that with how much Pastner has been in the community. How much he's pushing for people to get back to the stands. His players being out there talking to people. Even with Mullen's been everywhere. He's in commercials. He's talking to people. He thanked the UNLV fans for coming out on Saturday and hopes that they fill in Allegiant Stadium for UCLA. So I think that they're taking a complete different narrative and a complete different direction. I think they're going under the microscope of what did we do wrong. Granted, success was good with football, and that winning got people in the stands. But what did we do wrong from from a marketing perspective to get people's butts in the seats? And I think that even doing little things like keeping their radio show at Parkway Tavern, not moving it. The whiskey bar across the street from the stadium has a Dan Mullen menu that does a Dan Mullen eating challenge. Doing things like that, trying to, engage that way is great, I think. And, this is what they're doing. And, Mullen only's been here since December and, one game, and Pastner's hasn't coached a game yet. Winning cures all, but, they know that if they don't win and they don't have those type of personalities, they're going to be second, third fiddle behind VGK, behind the Raiders. And with baseball coming also, you may be third, fourth fiddle. You're already technically, as much as I hate to say it, you're already second fiddle in your own stadium that you play in. Yeah. So what can you do to be successful to get people in for your games? Because they announced attendance was 25,000 for an FCS game, which was rescheduled on short notice. So which was still a pretty decent crowd, but they're expecting to get 50,000 plus against UCLA. It's the first time that they're selling the third deck at Allegiant Stadium. So it's you saw the attendance rise last year. Winning does that, but it's going to be. They got to market better. They got to get more. Even if you notice the little things what they did in the back of the end zone, like they put those bleachers in to move students down to the field. Mm-hmm. Granted, I don't know why they just don't work something out with the Raiders to just pull those stands out, but at least they're doing something. The band's on the field. Those seats for students, first 500 students can get field access basically in the end zone. And, if you fill that up and you mix that with a full stadium, that makes a good impact. So, they got it. They got the biggest thing I think is, connecting with the city, winning, and getting students to go. It's, the student section hasn't been very prevalent since they had the Chem Kong in the rebellion when UNLV was making the NCAA tournament every year. So right. It's, trying to build that back, build a relationship, and just be able to get, Allegiant should be full. If they win, Allegiant should be minimum 30, 40,000 every night. There shouldn't be an excuse for it.
Yeah.
No, we definitely saw it last year with the success the team had. I got a question. What's your kind of thoughts as far as like the whole overall Mountain West Conference? There's been a lot of discussions, with teams leaving, teams coming. Obviously, there was a little discussions about maybe possibly UNLV moving out. What do you think the future of the Mountain West is going like these next 5-10 years?
I think people, schools made their decisions to go for whatever the reasons were. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I know I've written a bunch about how, UNLV's decision to stay in the Mountain West was a financial decision. It wasn't a field, a performance decision. They took a short-term route to fix their budget, in my opinion, to, be the class of a conference per se. And at the end of the day, I think that if the Pac-12 does not get their autonomous status and they're not considered part of a Power 5 conference, it doesn't really matter at this point with how CFP realignment talk has changed. If it's, Big 10, Big 12, or I'm sorry, Big 10, SEC, and then, the Big 12 gets their one or two bids, it doesn't really matter because the G5 is going to be, a G5, whether it has 1 spot, 2 spots, 3 spots. And if UNLV can continue its success, they're going to have to schedule better non-conference games, which you've already potentially started to see that happen with them removing games against, UTSA and schools like that to schedule better games. Those games are obviously have not been announced of what they are or what they look like, but they're already in the process of removing future games with schools and rescheduling so they can get better competition. Mm-hmm. I think that if it's going to be Boise and UNLV, if the success continues, and it's going to be that conversation. And if it's going to be, they take 2 schools from the G5, it'll probably be those 2 if they can win. I think where it hurts them is the basketball perspective. Granted, you can take you can look at the new Mountain West. Grand Canyon's a very good basketball program. They're very underrated. They've made the NCAA tournament 4 of the last 5 seasons. They're a very underrated basketball program. They travel well. New Mexico has been a very consistent basketball program. Reno's been a very consistent basketball program. Then you have UNLV, who's trying to get back, to where they were. Even just not even, you don't even have to say the Tark days. It's just, making that consistent NCAA tournament every year. That's right. That's the level they need to get to. I mean, but if you look at it, let's just say the Pac-12, Boise State's a good basketball program. Colorado State's a good basketball program. There's been talks that they're trying to get St. Mary's. So St. Mary's, is good. Gonzaga's obviously Gonzaga. San Diego State's been, they were a national runner-up 2 years ago. Like, the Pac-12 is going to be a very, very, very good basketball conference. Football-wise, it could just be Boise and everybody else. It depends on what these other schools do. How, a lot of schools now are in debt. It's, a big thing across the country, whether, it's Iowa State, it's Ohio State, it's UNLV. There are schools, because they're funding NIL and these, travel, playing better schools to try to get where they're at. They're financially, in debt. So, but then you have schools like San Diego State, who's, they're not spending heavily on NIL. Does that work when you go to try to compete in a conference like that? Because I could easily go to Gonzaga instead and play in the same conference as you and have a consistent, national Sweet 16 every year or, things like that. So it's going to be very interesting. I think I do think the thing to watch is this year's Mountain West basketball, because you have Grand Canyon coming in a year early. So you have already, and they're playing the Mountain West 5 who are leaving, and just the intensity and the venues and the atmosphere in those games is going to be heated. It's going to be, there's going to be a lot of hate. And, what people don't realize as well is, like, even on the football side, there's a lot of rivalries that are going away. UNLV and Boise starting to turn into a budding rivalry. If UNLV can get over the hump and beat them, you can call it a rivalry. Right. Colorado State is not going to play Wyoming anymore. The border war is gone. And then Air Force and Colorado State, that rivalry game is on pause as well. So you're losing a lot of those good, smaller rivalries that people don't talk about. UNLV and Reno is staying, obviously. But, New Mexico and San Diego State, they started a pretty good budding rivalry in basketball. That's gone unless they schedule them non-conference wise. So I think people look at it from the big picture, but if you look at it inside, like, you're losing a lot of different little rivalries that you wouldn't think were there. But, those fan bases sometimes don't like each other. And those are going to create, it's going to be very interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Last question before I get you up out of here, man. What is your overall feeling of the of the UNLV football team? What is your expectations? Where do you think they finish as far as the conference goes?
Before I saw week 1 or game 1, I had them going 10-2, finishing second in the Mountain West and beating Boise in Boise for the Mountain West Championship. I think that, the smaller games that I was worried about preseason wise, which were Colorado State and Wyoming, I've been very adamant on my platform that, those are the two games that can make or break their season. In my opinion, they haven't won at Wyoming since 2002. They haven't won at Colorado State since 2003. So, when you have those demons still that you're trying to get rid of, they still linger, they still hang around the program. I still think, I still think that they can finish, 9-10 wins, but it's going to be Friday night's going to be very telling. How do you bounce back off of a poor performance? How do you bounce back off, being basically criticized by every, football page out there? I mean, how many times have I seen, in my opinion, on like some of these just like college football U pages and things like that, they just called Dan Mullen ass, or the UNLV football team a terrible, or people making that, this was your CFP prediction. Like, do they read too much into that? Is this game, was the trap game Idaho State, or is this still a trap game because they have UCLA coming up? What is the focus like? And like you mentioned in the beginning, the culture. What is that culture being instilled? What's the focus like? What's it look like? How do you bounce back from the adversity? I think if they have a good bounce back game Friday night, I'm going to stick with my prediction. 10 wins, they make the Mountain West Championship and win it, because their back half of their schedule is very weak. They have New Mexico at home, they have Reno on the road, they have Utah State at home. Like, if they can get through the first 3 or 4 weeks and they can come out healthy, and they can be 4-1, basically, like, they can make a run, I think. But it's Friday night's going to be very telling, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. One more question: how special do you think Jaden Thomas can be?
I've been on the train since Mullen was hired that he's going to be this year's Ashton Jeanty.
Okay.
And I think that if you look at that run that he broke for 70 yards, it was very Ashton Jeanty-like. And I think if they win, 10 or 11 games, they were ranked. I mean, I don't know what the new AP poll dropped. I'm sure that they dropped them from, getting some votes, but they were 35 to open the season. If they take care of business against Sam Houston, some teams fall this weekend, week 1, they're up to 26, 27. They get it. If he goes nuts against UCLA, national attention on that game,
right?
Because, a lot of eyes are going to be on that just because of Nico.
Mm-hmm.
But, it could turn into what can Jaden Thomas, when I did my interview with him, he said that his goal for 2025 was to be a household name. He wants people to remember his name.
Okay.
And I think, if they're ranked and, they beat Boise on the road, they beat UCLA, they're sitting there at 11-1, and he rushes for, I'm not going to say he's going to rush for 2,600 yards. That's probably won't happen again. But he's sitting there around 17, 1,800, 15, 16, 1,700 yards. They're nationally. I don't see why he can't be sitting there as part of talk, at least.
Right.
And I think, it was kind of a slap in the face to him that he wasn't Mountain West preseason player of the year. No disrespect to Maddox Madsen, but Maddox Madsen was very protected by Ashton Jeanty. And Jaden Thomas had the body of work to be considered in that. And he was my preseason pick for Mountain West Player of the Year. And I think he could be sitting there in the talks like they were having about Ashton Jeanty last year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the kid, he went off.
What is your opinion? What do you think? Where do you think he can stand?
I think I'm with you. I think that he can be this year's Jeanty because the kid is special. I mean, 3 touchdowns. We had like 187 yards on
147, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, so my man went off, and he was most of the offense on Saturday. So yeah, and he was already special before that. You saw the flashes even before that. It was just him getting more opportunities. So I think this year he's going to go off. I think he could possibly be they could be at the end of the year, they could be looking at him as like a top 100 pick type deal with him. So
I think you can see like they're going to use him a lot in the passing game as well, and that's going to be a very underutilized part of his game, or underappreciated part of his game. And like you mentioned, if he could be a top 100, that could turn him into a higher level draft pick just strictly because he can show he can run, he can catch. His blocking was highly graded as well, so
that's a good thing.
And keep in mind, he's only a junior.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If he doesn't, if he pops off the way he does, and Mullen gets him to come back either not transfer to a higher level school or go to the NFL. What does his senior year look like?
Yeah, for sure. Well, Michael, man, I appreciate you coming on the show, man, giving us some insight on UNLV football and UNLV as a whole, man. We'll definitely be looking out for more information from you, man, and definitely excited for the season. Even though it's week 0, I always take it as guys are still trying to get their footing. They're still trying to get their play. It's a whole new team of players coming together, and I say by mid-season we'll get a real good identity of what
I will
this team
say
is.
it felt like watching that game in person, you were at an open scrimmage that just happened to have 25,000 fans there.
Yeah. That's a good description. That's a really good description.
Yeah, for sure. So tell everybody where to follow you at, where they can get all the information from.
Absolutely. So I'm a lot of my content's on Substack. So substack.com at Scarlet Standard Media. You can also follow me on Twitter at SS_media LV and on Twitter at Scarlet Standard Media. I try to get content out, as much as I can, whether it's player videos, interviews, things like that. And, I have almost daily written content. So like, subscribe, and follow me for any UNLV news and interviews that you'd be looking for.
All right, Michael, man, appreciate you coming on, man. Definitely got to bring you back on probably mid-season to get your opinion on everything.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
All right,
appreciate you, brother.
All right, man. Shout out to Michael Cooper, man, for giving us some insight, man. Definitely good to have somebody connected to the team, man, to give us a little bit more, in-depth insight, background, the behind-the-scenes stuff, man.
Right.
And it's dope that he's credentialed now, so he's really close to the team and stuff like that.
Yeah, congratulations to that. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens Friday night. Like that performance did leave a lot of eyebrows raised and a lot of questions that Dan Mullen and his team gonna have to answer. It's still early, so we'll see if they can bounce back, getting ready for UCLA.
Yeah, it's like he said, man. They had a coaching change with the defensive coordinator, and you got guys,
whole bunch of transfer portal guys,
signing late, and got to get ingratiated with the team. It's gonna take some time, man. It's gonna take some time. I know people are looking at the last 2 years of UNLV and the success that they had, and those guys were together. That was Barry Odom, who had already set a culture, and those guys have been playing together for a while. So
we all know UNLV gets a little bit more hate than usual from these teams in the Mountain West, bro. So we all know what's up. We know what's up.
I know, but we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Yeah. All right, man. Let's do our BetUS Surefire picks, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, man. What you got?
So I got the Aces minus 10.5 over the Sky. The Aces are rolling right now. I expect the Sky. I expect them to dominate the Sky. I got the Mets money line over the Phillies. I like that, and then I got the Dodgers money line over the Reds after that big win against the Padres the other day.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna take the minus 10.5 Aces over the Sky. Also take any prop bets. Take Asia Wilson over whatever her points are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
25.5 most probably.
I low key might like that bet with her getting the MVP. I might like that bet. It's looking better and better by the day, low key.
She balling, dog. And like I said, especially with Nafisha Collier not playing, it's like really dwindling her chances now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the plus 15 Connecticut Sun and New York Liberty. I don't think they're gonna beat them by that much. You know what I'm saying? I think the Sun have been fighting lately, but I'm gonna take the plus 15 too.
Liberty getting Breonna Stewart back.
Huh?
I said Liberty getting Breonna Stewart back. So.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll see. She still got to get back into the flow of things. You know what I'm saying?
No, for sure.
And then I'm going to taking my Royals over the White Sox, baby. All right, people. If you look at the screen, this thing will pop up. There you go. If you look at the screen, you'll see the QR code for the BetUS website. Go ahead and scan that code. Sign up. This first time users on. You sign up. Put the promo code JOIN125. There's 125% sign up bonus. And 10% gamblers insurance because they got other things on the site. That's 3 risk-free bets on the first 3 deposits on $100 up to $5,000. So that means on your first 3 deposits, if you bet $100 and you lose, you keep your money. So you can win some money, or on your first 3 deposits, you can keep your money if you lose. So go over there, scan that QR code, sign up, tell them Cris Down the Mall sent you.
Mm-hmm.
And that does it for our BetUS Surefire picks. All right, man. I wanted to talk about they just announced the media crew for the Canelo and Crawford fight the other day. So I just wanted to pull this up and get your thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm.
Give me this. All right. So we got of course Max Kellerman, he's the fight analyst. And Andre Ward's another fight analyst. Of course, Michael Buffer is going to be the ring announcer. Joe Martinez is another ring announcer. Jim Gray is a reporter. You got Antonio Tarver, he's a desk analyst. Mike Kriegel, desk analyst. Mario Lopez, desk analyst, and Mike Coppering is a desk analyst. And then Heidi Andro is reporter. Skipper Kelp is a coach, rules, role, whatever that is. And then John Anik is play-by-play. What's your thoughts on this media team, man?
I actually like it, man. I think John Anik is really good. He's the main predominant UFC play-by-play guy. I think he does an amazing job. Definitely brings excitement to the fights. I think obviously the addition of Max Kellerman and Andre Ward, I love that. You know, we've all been asking where Max Kellerman's been at. I think he's a great, insightful guy in boxing, and his voice has been truly missed as far as like in the boxing world. So I'm truly excited. We all know Michael Buffer, bro.
Right.
He's the greatest. He's the greatest of all time. His voice
Yeah.
is pretty much, when he's announcing the names of the fighters, you know it's the fight of the year, the fight, or whatever you want to call it. He only calls the best of the best. So, and as far as everybody else, you know, Mario Lopez, all right, whatever. As long as my man ain't dancing and doing all that BS, like, we good. But overall, man, it's dope. It's dope. I think this whole lineup is really good. You got a lot of Hall of Famers calling this fight, and obviously, you know, not a lot of people are too excited for the undercard for this Canelo and Crawford fight. So all these guys should bring some element of, you know, getting us through until we get to the main card. Who knows? I know it's a lot of names that a lot of people don't recognize with that undercard, but those could be some really exciting fights. You know, I mean, we won't find out until the day of when those fights actually happen. So those fights could really surprise us. But overall, man, as far as the talent lineup, I think it's excellent, A+ job, and I'm excited, man. I can't wait to watch Crawford whoop on Canelo. So.
I agree. Yeah, I'm with you. You know how we feel about Max Kellerman. I think he's one of the greatest voice, if not the greatest voice of boxing ever. He knows, you know, we all know he knows his stuff. I'm not too familiar with John Anik, but I'm gonna go with you, man. I'm gonna listen to you.
He's really good. He's really good.
He's really good at play-by-play. Andre Ward, one of the greatest fighters of our generation. He's transitioned to being a really good fight analyst and breaking down the game, and I love a lot of his content, you know, a lot of his interviews and stuff like that. So we already know, like you said, Michael Buffer is the greatest of all time. There's nothing to be said about that. I'm not too familiar about Joe Martinez, but I'm pretty for sure he's good at his job. Jim Gray, legend when it comes to a legend when it comes to boxing. You know what I'm saying? I'm with you. Mario Lopez, you know, he's more of the look, you know what I'm saying? He got the smile, so you know the women are gonna watch it. Mark Kriegel, he's also another one who knows the boxing like a T. You know what I'm saying? He always breaks it down. Antonio Tarver was a great champion at his time, and he's gonna bring his insight. And Mike Coppern has kind of built himself up as kind of that new guy that's come up, you know, as far as, you know, announcing what fights are going on and inside info. So it's
He kind
cool.
of took over Dan Raphael a little bit. You know,
Pretty
I feel
much.
like he's pretty much the new Dan Raphael. He's doing
Yeah.
a great job. So
Yeah, he has. A lot of people don't like him, but
yeah,
but
well, a lot of people didn't like Dan Raphael either.
they
But you know,
didn't.
comes with the
Yeah,
territory.
that's true. Still don't.
Yeah, so
So he's got to been that guy. But no, it's a good team. It's a good team. I expect nonstop, great coverage on this fight, man. And I'm excited, man. I'm just ready, man. It's a
yeah,
couple weeks from here now, and we almost here, man, to see Canelo get his face beat in. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
We're not biased. We just are. No, I'm just playing.
Nah, I'm biased. So it is what it is. I'm on up to it.
Alrighty. All right. Where we at? Where we at? All right, man. Let's talk about Satou Sabally. Um, he's been complaining about scheduling, playing back-to-back games. We all know that the men have to do it, and now women are starting to have to do it. And I know a lot of people are, have some discourse about it because when you're asked to do, or you're asking for more money, there's more requirements from you. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So back to backs will probably be on the horizon as this game gets more popular, as more teams get more added on. There's going to be more games and more back to backs, and these girls are going to have to, play a little bit longer. Their endurance is going to be tested. You know what I'm saying? Can they last as long as the men have to last? Is there going to be load management in the WNBA once more teams get into this? So I know you had your issues with what she said. So the floor is yours, sir.
Look, everybody knows I'm a big fan of Satou. I think she's an amazing talent in the WNBA. But I think these comments that she made were I want to be respectful. I'm not going to say they're idiotic. I just think that they're just misplaced because I understand. I looked at their schedule. This was their first back-to-back that they had, and I get it. They played 5 games in 8-10 days, but it's not a normality with the scheduling with the WNBA. A lot of these teams only play 2 times a week. You know what I mean? If that. So, and I get it. People are going to kind of, some of these ladies are going to bring in that they play over in overseas leagues or in unrivaled and stuff like that. And I get that. The whole momentum of you guys getting paid more in the W is so that you ladies don't have to go into these other leagues and having to play year round. I think that's the ultimate goal. And I think, especially with the whole Brittany Griner situation overseas, I think a lot of that kind of scared females to continue playing overseas. I think that's why the unrivaled league kind of honestly even started, kind of keep these players on stateside. So situations like that don't reoccur. But I just think that with these ladies and what they're fighting for, I hope they get the money that they want. But again, they got to remind themselves that this league is still fighting to be able to be dependent on no one but themselves. Like they're still being dependent on the NBA. The NBA is still paying for this league to be existing at this point. They've been the one financing this league, and we've seen the numbers, man. Attendance has been up, and you know, and it's because of all these ladies, not one particular person. Caitlin Clark has not been playing for the past month, 2 months, and the league is still thriving. You know what I mean? There's a lot of great talent in this league, and there's a lot of great talent that's going to come into this league in these next couple of years. So I assume these ladies are going to eventually get the money that they will be accepting, and hopefully it's enough where they can continue to build up this league and potentially, when negotiations come up in the future, get even more money. And that's the ultimate goal, I think, with any of these ladies. And none of us want to see them not make the money that they don't deserve, but it's going to take some time. You know what I mean? You're not going to get everything, and it's checks and balances with the situation. Like the more money you're going to get, the more games they're going to add to the schedule. That is the reality of it, because that's what these TV networks are going to want. The popularity is going to thrive. So when the popularity is up, the demand is up, and you're going to have to play more games. And when you add more games into the schedule, because you got to kind of figure out the WNBA has to find its pocket. You know what I mean? You got to find your pocket in between the NBA and the NFL and Major League Baseball and hockey and some of these sports. You got to find your pocket. So in that aspect, it's gonna come a time where you're gonna be playing multiple back to backs and stuff like that. I know with analytics and stuff like that that they will try their best to limit that as much as possible. We've seen that in the NBA, and they play 82 games. But I just think the Satou comments doesn't really help the situation as far as like them in the negotiation table, because these organizations, including the NBA, who's involved, they're gonna look at that like, all right, look, you want this bread, you're gonna have to play more games, and when more games trying to be um, fit into this window, the possibilities of adding back to backs is going to be a higher probability than what is currently right now. This is your first back to back that you played all year. No one wants to hear you cry about you playing it one time a year. And that's the reality of this situation. It's not a female thing or a male thing. This is just the reality of what this league is going to have to start enduring. So more eyes on this sport, the more criticism comes when you make some comments like this, and they're going to call you out on it. So
Yeah, for sure. I agree, man. It's just that she has to understand, like, you know, once you start adding more game or getting more money, or your sport starts getting higher in demand, you're gonna start playing more games, man. You see it with the NFL. Like them boys, they got them damn near playing every day out of the week now.
yeah, yeah,
And you got teams got 6, 7, 8, you know what I'm saying? Prime time games, and you know what I'm saying? And they doing all this Black Friday, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, and
hmm
all these games. Anytime NFL can find a game, oh, we can play on that day. Yeah, we gonna play. We gonna play.
yeah,
So, and those
yeah,
brothers is out there put their body on the line for real. So,
yeah.
um, so she's gonna have to understand, man, that that's just gonna come with the territory, man. I mean, I get it. You know what I'm saying? It's something that you're not used to. You know what I'm saying? But that's when you're a professional, and these league owners and people that run these leagues, they want more. If it's more high demand, they got to supply it. That's why it's called supply and demand. They're gonna supply more. Any product that you put out there, and they want more, and the people want more of it, they're gonna give them more. You know what I'm saying? So that's just the thing. That's the name of the game when it comes to sports. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you got to think about the fan aspect too. You know what I mean? You're making more money, so the fans are going to expect, as you said, they're going to expect more. So you make
Hmm.
comments like this, it's kind of it's not going to help the fan base be more supportive of you, because the more money you make, the more criticism, and the more different type of views is going to happen with you in this league. We see it with NFL players and MLB players and NHL and NBA. Anytime a lockout comes, a lot of fans are like, good, you already make millions of dollars. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
we all know how hard this league has been trying to change the perception of women's sports, especially women's basketball, and get the respect that they clearly deserve. You know what I mean? So, it's just gonna be tougher for them. But these comments, they do not help, and I think Satou needs to be way smarter in how she communicates about that, because the sympathy factor is gonna be gone once you get all this bread. All that sympathy that you ladies were, not riding charter flights, you got charter flights. You want to stay in better hotels, you're gonna get stay in better hotels. You want more pay, you want more pay. That's cool. But don't give me this, you play one back to back and then so woe is me. That ain't gonna cut it. You know what I mean? So it's, especially in today's climate, that's not gonna work. And it's not gonna help the popularity of your league. You're just gonna find more criticism for that. And she gotta be smarter than that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, man. I know we don't talk a lot of baseball here, but I did want to talk about something that's interesting. They have been talking about expansion in Major League Baseball. I know that we're supposed to get a team. We're supposed to get the Athletics out here. I know they supposedly been breaking ground and working on the new stadium out here. We'll see.
And moving dirt, moving dirt back and forth. That's what
We'll
they doing.
see. We'll see. It's supposed to be what, 2028, I think. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that number, that ain't gonna happen.
But then there's also talks of expansion teams and possibly moving the Florida teams, because they're not really getting a lot of fans out there. The Miami Marlins, the Tampa Bay Rays, Florida people don't care about baseball like that. They got
Yeah,
too much going on in Miami right now.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So the hell, they barely try to go out for the Heat unless they win it. So
and the Dolphins
and
too.
the Dolphins too. So
Yeah, so.
So somebody posted up this realignment. I just want to get your opinion on it.
Mhm.
So this is how they broke it down. NL Midwest would be the Cubs, the White Sox, the Cardinals, and the Reds. And then you got the NL Central would be the Rockies, the Royals, the Texans, or and the Astros. And then you have the Dodgers and the South NL Southwest would be Dodgers, Padres, Angels, and Diamondbacks. And then in the NL Northwest, you have the Mariners, the Athletics, the San Francisco Giants, and what is that? The Portland team, the new Portland team. And then in the AL Northeast, it'd be the Yankees, the Mets, the Red Sox, and the Phillies. And then in the AL Mid Atlantic, you got the Orioles, the Nationals, the Pirates, the Guardians, and then you have in the AL Great Lakes, they call it the Twins, the Tigers, the Brewers, and the Blue Jays. And then in the AL Southeast, you would have the Braves, the Marlins, the Tampa Bay Rays, and then the Charlotte team. So I'm guessing the Portland and the Charlotte team would be the expansion teams. They're trying to make it a group of 32. So
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on this? Do you think this realignment would be good? Do you think it'd be bad? What's your thoughts?
It's whatever to me at this point. Like it makes sense. Like I don't understand the Vegas team being part of the Northwest NL, but it is what it is. I get it. Maybe you want to keep a lot of those Cali teams together, and then you add the Arizona. I guess you can either add the Arizona team or the Vegas team. I guess it's a toss up between those two.
Yeah.
But overall, man, yeah, it's what you kind of expect. I think looking at it. You said you got the Yankees and the Mets and the Red Sox and the Phillies all in one. That
Hmm.
would probably be the most interesting one, I would assume,
Yeah.
especially with all those
Yeah.
with those fan bases. I think that could be one of the more exciting divisions if that's the case. That may be. Um, where they got your Royals at? I never see where they got your
We're in the
Royals at.
NL Central. We'd be with the
NL Central.
Rockies,
Yeah,
the
honestly,
Astros,
minus the Rockies, man, and I think the Rockies have had their moments of being a good baseball
the
team. Obviously,
Rangers.
uh, uh, obviously it's been pretty bad as of late for the Rockies team, but they've had their good years. I think that will be an interesting division too. I mean, with the Royals and Rangers and Astros, I think that could be a really
Hmm.
some of those rivalries getting boosted up. But overall, I'm not mad at it as far as the potential MLB realignment. I think it'll be good for baseball. I just think it'll be kind of interesting to see what they do with the scheduling.
Hmm.
Whether they'll keep it at where they're at now, or would they potentially add more games, or if the case may be, like how often would these teams play? You know what I mean? So it'll just be interesting. But overall, man, I'm not really mad about it. Hopefully, all this starts shaping up here real soon, and I think baseball has been their trajectory has been in more of a positive light, especially some of the
Hmm.
rule changes with as far as like the pitch clock and all that. It's made the game a lot faster. I guess more enjoyable in a sense. You're more of a baseball guy than me, so you can have a better, answer to that. But
Yeah.
overall, man, I think it'll be interesting to see the future of this league in the next like 5 years.
Yeah. Um, I'm with you. I would honestly, I'd probably switch the A's and the Padres since I mean, especially if the A's are coming to Vegas.
Hmm.
I'm switch. I get it. They want the Dodgers and the Padres. That's a
Yeah, they're
rivalry.
man. Yeah,
I get it, but they're still in the NL, so in the National League, so
right,
they still gonna face each other. So
right.
it really don't matter. The rivalry still. It's not like you're putting the Padres on the AL side and you're keeping the Dodgers on this side. Like they're still in the
Yeah.
NL. So it's
Or
still
Anaheim, you can move Anaheim or something. You know what I mean?
that's what I'm saying. Like, but I mean, if you want to keep the, because I get it, Anaheim and the Diamondbacks and LA, you switch those two, that makes more sense because
Yeah,
Vegas is Southwest.
it is.
We're
It's
not
Southwest.
Northwest.
We're not. We're really not.
We're not a Northwest. San Diego Padres is way more Northwest than us.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but no, I'm not mad at the realignment. You know what I'm saying? Especially if we're gonna get the Yankees and the Mets in the same uh, conference. Like
Yeah.
that's gonna end in the Red Sox and Phillies. So that's gonna be a great division right there. Um, Chicago, you'll reunite that Chicago uh Cubs, Chicago White Sox rivalry. Those two, they hate each other. So you bring that back. Um yeah, man, I mean I ain't mad at it. I ain't mad at it. It'd be interesting. It's interesting that they put Portland and Charlotte as the teams, like as those are the teams that they're looking for. Um I was
I
under
thought it would be
some,
Nashville or
yeah, it
something.
would be Nashville. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what the baseball climate is in Portland or in Charlotte, so I don't know. So
I,
maybe they have a strong fan base in the minor leagues. So I don't know.
I would think Charlotte would be more of the play than Portland. I would
Yeah,
think it would be Charlotte and Nashville because of those cities are being the more vibrant cities. I think those cities have been growing tremendously. I think Charlotte has been voted as one of the better cities to live in. I think Nashville was on that list too, if I'm not mistaken. So,
hmm
there's been a lot of conversation with both of those cities getting more, you know, um, Major League Baseball teams and stuff like that. So, yeah, Portland would be very interesting. But either way, man, let's just get this going. A's need to hurry up and stop moving dirt and get the stadium actually built. You know what I mean? They're just wasting people's time at this point. So
if I would make another change, I'd put the Royals in the Midwest and drop the Reds because you could unite that St. Louis Cardinals Kansas City Royals rivalry battle of Missouri.
yeah, honestly, that would make some more sense. You got the two Chicago teams, and then you got the two, Missouri teams. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
so that
So
would be
yeah,
the
that would
only
make
thing.
sense. Yeah,
I think that would make a little bit more sense. So,
no doubt. Yeah,
but yeah, man, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
for sure.
All right. All right, man. Let's talk about Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo, man. There's been rumors of them possibly fighting. I'm even looking on real time right now. Shakur Stevenson is going at Teofimo. He said he accepts the fight and told
Hmm.
Teofimo stop messing with the fans and acting like you agreed to it. Sign the paperwork, homie. And we all know
Yeah.
how Teofimo operates, man. He'll put some stuff out there acting like he about to fight somebody, and then the fight
Hmm.
falls through and it never happens. And Teofimo is always with drama. It's always drama when it comes to Teofimo. That's why I'm off the bandwagon. I ain't messing with Teofimo no more, man. I'm done. Tired of him. Get in the ring, fool. So, but no, if this fight were to happen, what would your excitement level be?
It'll be a good 10. I'll be excited for it. You know what I mean? I just think the build up to this fight would be really good. The press conferences will be really good. We all know Teofimo. He was going to say some wild stuff. And I think this will get the best out of Teofimo. I still think Shakur Stevenson wins this fight. But I think this could be a really good fight. We all know Teofimo can have his moments where he doesn't look motivated or actually into the fight. And then we all know Shakur Stevenson is on his heater right now, as far as like
Mhm.
impressive boxing matches. So I think this will be good. You know what I mean? Especially coming off the tank news and all that stuff like that. I think this will be a positive thing for boxing. So hopefully they can make this happen. Hopefully everything that's been said over the Twitter or X universe is a reality, and both these guys accept this fight, and then hopefully we can get this sometime early next year.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's a fight that definitely needs to happen, man. And you got these two young guys who are still in their prime, man. That's what we be wanting to see is these guys to fight in their prime. We always
Hmm.
complain about how dudes always claim they're gonna fight and then they
Hmm.
always falls through. So
Yeah.
if Eddie Hearns can make this fight happen, or whoever, make it happen. If the Turk got to step in with the bags of money, bring in the bags of money and let's go. Let's get this fight going because we all see what Tank doing. He over there fighting your boy over there, Jake Paul. So
Yeah.
he ain't fighting Shakur or Teofimo anytime soon. So, and we'll see his trajectory after this fight. Is he gonna retire? You know what I'm saying? Is he gonna take another hiatus? Like,
Hmm.
so I definitely would want to see this fight. Definitely want to see this fight. So, who should be the favorite?
Shakur. Shakur.
For sure. All right, let's do our last topic. Finish, our NFC or conferences, division orders,
Mhm.
previews. Today we're gonna do the NFC South. Now we all know that this division has a lot to be desired. We think Tampa Bay is the cream of the crop when it comes to this division, but we also think Carolina is coming. We think that they are emerging. They had some good signs and flashes last year, and they added some players to the draft and free agency this year to make us think that they could possibly be a viable threat. So, what is your order as far as the NFC South?
So I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep respect. I'm gonna keep Tampa Bay at number one. I think that team has earned that right to start off as the number one team going into this season. Especially the amount of talent that they have. That receiving core is deep. I know they have one injury on there, but I'm assuming he should be able to come back sometime this year. Lucky Irvin, I think that defense could be somewhat respectable as well. So I like them at number one. Number two, I got the Carolina Panthers, man. I love this team. You know me, I'm a big Bryce Young guy. I think Bryce Young has hit that switch. I think he looks amazing. I thought he looked amazing in the preseason. I thought he looked amazing at the end of the year. I know you got firsthand look going up against your Chiefs and how close that game was. And you add the addition of McMillan, and they still got Thielen on his team, but there are rumors about maybe him potentially getting moved. Obviously, you want to see the progression of Xavier Leggett, but some of
Mhm.
the additions on the defensive side, you know what I mean. I think this team could surprise a lot of people. Number three, I got the Atlanta Falcons. I think the Falcons. I still got to see it, man. With this team, I think preseason wise, they have not looked good at all. You know what I mean? Obviously, we haven't seen a lot of the ones. We haven't seen Bijan Robinson or anything like that. A lot of people are expecting Bijan to have a great year. And Michael Penix to be able to have this offense look, more explosive. You know what I mean? We know he likes to throw the ball down the field. But this defense, some of the additions on the defensive side, through the draft should be interesting. And then the Saints, my God, like that might be the worst team in the whole entire league. That team is terrible. Offensively, I don't know what they're gonna do. I think Alvin Kamara will be on the trading block. That defense is old. I wouldn't be surprised some of those guys, especially some of the more veteran guys that can still play the game, get moved. I think they're kind of setting themselves up to be in the Manning sweepstakes if he's able to come out next year. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. Everything from Tampa Bay still the cream of the crop. I know that Jalen McMillan got hurt; he's got the neck injury, but that's why you drafted Amika. Okay, he can
Yeah.
step right into Jalen McMillan's role, and they can keep rolling. I know they took Chris Godwin. I think he's off the pup list now, so he's going to be practicing again. So we'll see if he can bounce back from that injury. Mike Evans is the constant professional, the constant 1,000-yard receiver.
Mhm.
And Baker Mayfield continues to elevate every year since he's been on this team. So I expect this team to make a deep run, and possibly make a deep run into the playoffs too. Be possibly that other team in the NFC that can possibly get to the Super Bowl this year if everything comes together. I know they added Hassan Reddick too, to that defensive line too. So maybe he could
Mhm.
add to that, with Vita Vea and all them to add a little juice on that defensive line too. So
Yeah.
um, I'm with you with Carolina. I'm a roll with Carolina too. I think that they are going to be that sleeper team this year. You got Ted McMillan looking good in preseason. Chuba Herbert's coming back. He's one of the better running backs in this league. They got, like you said, Xavier Leggett. He's got to just show can he catch the ball and get two
Mhm.
hands on it, because we see the talent. It's just gotta catch the ball, sir.
Yeah.
And then defensively, they added some stuff on that defensive line. They re-upped or gave uh, J.C. Horn a new contract, so we'll see if he could live up to that contract. When he's on the field, he's one of the better corners. It's just that's the problem, the durability.
Mhm.
And if he could stay
Mhm.
healthy, then he could definitely help that defense. I know they added one of our defensive guys, Turk. He's pretty good in the run. Could add a little juice as pass rusher too. It'd also be interesting to see if they add some more to that defensive line too. So
Yeah.
I'm with you with Atlanta. Michael Penix. We got to see what Michael Penix can do. Can he be better than Kirk Cousins?
Mhm.
If he can be better than Kirk Cousins was, this team has the potential to be a really good team. They got the
Mhm.
pieces around them, with their
Mhm.
receiving core. Their running back is probably one of the best running backs in the league, Bijan Robinson. Even Tyler Algier is a good backup. You know what I'm saying? Algier probably could start for a lot of other teams. So they got a nice little two-headed monster as far as the running game goes. Defensively is the issue. Can they get pass rush? They were like last in the league when it comes to pass rush win rate. So they got to get better. I know they drafted James Pierce. I forgot the other guy they drafted. But they drafted a couple guys that's supposed to help them spark this defensive line and get some pass rush going so they won't put those corners on the island. So you still got Jesse Bates. You still got AJ Terrell out there. But we got to see what this defensive line can do, and can they keep the game close enough for Michael Penix and them to still do their thing. So, and then I'm with you. The Saints are horrible. They're a terrible team. I said they were the worst team in the league before the draft. And after the draft, ain't nothing changed. It's still the worst team in the league. Don't be surprised if there's a fire sale of players from the Saints. Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, Cam Jordan, whoever. You see a player and they might be gone by the trade deadline. So I think they're going to try to be in the Arch Manning sweepstakes, or if he's not coming there, maybe the Drew Allar sweepstakes, Cade Kublik, or Garrett Nussmeier. So we shall see. So those are our draft orders, or our conference orders for the NFC South. We'll be doing the AFC South on Wednesday. All right, man. You got anything else?
Nah, man. I don't have anything. Just catch me on Barbershop Talk later today, man. 4:30.
Yeah, for sure. You're gonna be talking about the AFC West. Unfortunately, I can't make it. I got something I got to do today. So, but I know it's gonna be a good show. I did see that Trey Hendrickson and them are in negotiations to possibly sign a contract where he just signs, gets like a one lump sum of money this year and still becomes like a free agent next year or something like that. So he might be a 1-year rental, y'all.
Yeah.
But I ain't got nothing else, man. What's your you got any flowers of the week?
Flowers, yeah, I got one. I got Stan Verrett and Neil Everett, man. They announced today that they're gonna do a new sports show on Twitch. It's gonna be kind of a more kind of been described as kind of like a more looser sports center. So, congrats to those guys, man. I used to like watching them on Sports Center. So it should be pretty dope, man, to see how they kind of do their version of a sports talk show. So shout out to those guys.
For sure. My flowers, of course, goes to the Little League baseball team from South Summerlin. They made it all the way to the World Series championship. Unfortunately, they didn't win it, but they are named the U.S. champions. So shout out to those young men. They went out there and played their hearts out, and they made it all the way to the championship, man. So shout out to all those young players out there that went out there and played. I know that's not an easy thing to do. Play in front of 25,000. I don't know how many people was out there.
25,000, about 25. Yeah,
a lot of people out there, man. So, and for a 12-year-old kid, that could be a lot of pressure on you. So, shout out to those young men out there, man. I also want to give a shout out to the Indoor Football League Vegas Nighthawks. They won the championship on Saturday, man. Shout out to those brothers out there, man. It was a high scoring game as any indoor football game is. I think they won like 38 to like 33 or something like that. But they won on a goal line stance. The quarterback tried to sneak it in, and they stopped him at the goal line and won the championship. So shout out to the Vegas team, man. Bringing home the chip.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Who gets your hell now?
Just one. Browns organization. Browns organization. They pretty much get it for me as far as like how they've handled this whole quarterback situation. So I think it's pretty easy as far as like in the sports world who should get it. So
yeah, mine is gonna go to Jerry Jones. Just I don't know, man. Just tone deaf, man. I don't get him. I don't get it, man. Like man. My man Michael Parsons, man. Either sign him or trade him, man. Damn.
Right.
Simple.
Yeah.
So, all right, good people. Hope you enjoyed the show today. Like I said, shout out to Michael Cooper for coming on and once again sharing his insight on UNLV and UNLV football. So, and shout out for Mom for making the call from California.
Man, we'll be back to normal on Wednesday.
A man out there doing his thing. But if you look at the screen, you'll see the QR code for the WWE shop. Scan that code, you get all your latest merchandise from the WWE, whether it be CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Jay Uso, main event Jay Uso, Seth freaking Rollins, Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, Naomi. Shout out to Naomi. That's another person I want to give flowers to, Naomi and Jimmy Uso, for they announced that they are having a baby. So shout out to them. And all your latest and greatest WWE superstars. If you want to donate to the podcast, you can donate to our Cash App at $Chris Mall Podcast. We will greatly appreciate whatever you give to us. Whatever streaming platform that you use to listen to your podcast, whether it be Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, whatever you do to listen to your podcast, we are available. First time watchers on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, that like button, the notification button. So when we go live on Mondays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and Wednesdays at 9-ish p.m. Pacific Standard Time, you can jump in the live. You can talk about these topics. We want to hear from you. We want to get your opinion. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening on the playback, put something in the comment section. And whatever social media platform you use, whether it be X, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Twitch, Instagram, Kick, whatever you use, you can follow us at Crystal and Mall. We will follow you back with just some regular guys who like to talk sports, music, movies, and all kinds of various other things. So go ahead and hit us up, man. If you got a question or a topic, or if you have feedback or critique, or you have a question or a topic that you want us to bring up the show, and we like said question or topic, we will bring it up. We will shout you out because we want to show love to those who show love to us. So go ahead and hit us up via DM, email, or our mentions. All right, good people. I hope you have a good rest of your day. We'll be back Wednesday night with some more topics. Get y'all ready for the NFL season. Get y'all ready for college football. We're going to preview college football week 1 because there's a whole slew of games that we got to talk about and get into. So until Wednesday, hope you guys have a good day. We out.
Peace out.